And as always, before we do that, you already know what you need to do. You need to subscribe, like, comment, share. We're almost at 600 subscribers. We need 400 more. Let's get it, shorty. Peace.
That's real. So you've been there for a minute. You got your bearings and all that. Got your little friends. When you first came there, it's like when I came there, I had to get a car. You shipped your car through your company, but do you recommend shipping the car? And you can talk about some of the aspects of shipping the car or buying a car here.
Okay. Okay. That's still a tough question. It depends on what car you got. That's the bigger one. But yeah, so the process going through that. So we used a company called Crowley, which is a fairly large shipper. And I want to say it was about $2,000 to ship the car. But when you get to the port, based on how recent or how new your car is, your excise tax will vary. I had to pay 25% of the value of my car. So when I got to the port and they asked for $8,000, I didn't have it. And I was like, yo, you guys can keep the car because I'm not going to have it today or tomorrow. And no one told me I was going to pay this price. I ended up getting that worked through with work. They fronted the bill because it was part of our moving expense, but everyone's not going to have that moving expense luxury. Now, if you got a car that's not as expensive as my car was, and that's just another $2,000 for you to get on to the port, it becomes a better decision. Because either way, if you were to go buy a new car, or I want to say a car within about 3 years, you have to pay an excise tax here for the import of the car, which is still 25% of the vehicle. So when you see cars here, if you're going to shop around, at least newer cars, you're going to see that they seem expensive. And that's because at the dealership, they've already incorporated that excise cost into the price of the car. But once again, if you go used at a certain part, that tops out and you won't have to worry about it. So I would say it depends on what car you have and what situation you're in, but expect 25% of the value. And if you get lucky with not paying that, then go have a good dinner or something.
Yeah, that's weird, man. Like I think everyone, like I asked around multiple times, like where to look at. Everyone I talk to is like, yo, clasificados, like that's where you want to look. So they got dogs on there, you and the animals,
Yep. That's where I got my French bulldog off of clasificados. Yep.
One thing about PR though, I feel like the apartments, they do not like mascotas, man. They do not mess with the pets.
One thing to keep in mind, because I know a lot of people that do travel and relocate have pets. It can be difficult, or you're definitely going to pay more if you're trying to get an apartment with pets, especially in that Condado area. If you're in Santurce, Miramar, and Atorrey, people they don't really put it in the contract. It's a little looser. You can get away with that type of stuff. But yeah, if you're over there in that investment area, that tourist area, Condado, Isla Verde, it can be tricky to get a pet. And not even depending on like size. Like it was tricky to get a French bulldog, and they're like a peaceful small dog. So just keep that in mind if you plan on bringing your animal, or if you could leave it at mom's house for a year, maybe leave it at mom's house for a year.
Yeah, I know, man. Like that's a big thing for me. So just make sure you're on the lookout for that. Yeah. So okay. So we talked about housing, we talked about cars, jobs, all the essentials. How about one of the other pillars, healthcare? How's the healthcare over there, DR?
So you'll hear hit and miss things about the healthcare, but I think overall we have a very good healthcare program and system. Also, there's a lot of young professionals in the healthcare industry. We do, in terms of what policies are open, we still have all the same core infrastructure of the United States. So we still, if you're on government aid, we have Medicaid, we have Medicare. So those two programs still exist. Likewise, we have WIC and EBT, all of that, food stamps, stuff like that. In terms of, we have some of the large conglomerate medical industries, medical providers. Let me start that over one second. Different ones such as that. I personally have Blue Anthem, which works here just like the other healthcare programs, but the challenge can be finding the healthcare institutions that will take your card. Some of them may be hesitant and they might give you a hard time about it. They may say, "Oh no, we don't cover it," but they cover it. Just get the bill and send it to your healthcare provider, and they'll take care of it. It's just sometimes they don't want to deal with the extra little bit of work, but don't let them get you down. I will say that I do have coworkers who take advantage of healthcare a little bit more than I do, and for big things, for big operations, sometimes they will fly back home and get that operation or that surgery. And I think that's mostly down to the fact that you want to be comfortable with your surgeon. You know, you've probably likely been with that surgeon for years, so you may feel more comfortable just spending that extra couple $100 to have that peace of mind versus have a new surgeon who's never really dealt with you, a new doctor, have to operate. So you can get all the healthcare that you need. We have the same things in the States, and then we have some exclusives here. Also like MAP-free, which is I think a cheaper insurance, but it is an insurance option here that you can take a look at and see their offerings.
But yeah, that was one of the things I was kind of curious about. I know we had a convo prior about the ambulance system there. I'm like, yo, heard you got to pay cash for the ambulance. They'll just not pick you up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't run into that, but once again, if someone told you it happened, I'm sure they wouldn't make it up. It could have been something a little sketchy going on there, but that's not normally the case. I know a lot of people who do use the emergency room as their doctor's office, and they never had to pay cash. But
Yeah. So, you've been there for 4 years. Do you see yourself there long term?
ultimately, I do personally see myself as a long-term resident. I mean, it's been 4 years and I have no motivation to leave. Especially seeing some of the business opportunities. I'm kind of switching my mind into that, and there's a lot of opportunities here, but I just like the way of life. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the weather for the most part. But hopefully we have no more major storms. It feels like a home to me. It feels warm. I just enjoy myself here. I feel comfortable. And the only thing I can foresee making me move is maybe if there was another big hurricane or the point where my children would get old enough to go to school, just because the public education is a little shaky here in terms of elementary. So I would either have to put them in private school or we'd have to make a decision to move. But either way, that would be 5 years from even having kids, which I don't have now. So that's long term enough for me.
Yeah. Do you think that first of all, were you there during Maria?
So the storm that had come before, that was supposed to be the Maria of the storms. It was supposed to be the bad one. So at the last minute, thankfully it moved north and dodged us. But I had already taken all my preparations. Like I had put a bunch of stuff in a hotel, and I was staying at a hotel because they should have a backup generator and all of that. So I went through that little experience, and then I had about 2 weeks or a week and a half before I got power back at my house. And then literally the next 2 days after that, I went home to take a nap on Sunday. I woke up 2 hours later to my work chat blowing up, and they're just sitting there saying like, hey, if you guys can get on a plane out, get on a plane out, because this next storm is coming and it doesn't look like it's gonna miss, and it's stronger than Hurricane Irma. So I kind of took heed to that, especially because I was the last person to get power back out of everybody that I knew and worked with. So I was like, yeah, no, man, bump that. I'm out. I'll come back when they let us know what's up. So I did personally leave for that storm and came back. I ended up having to come back about 3 months later. But the stories and the experiences and the pictures I have of just even my house where I was, it was like there was an impact. And shout out to all the lives lost during that process. That was a dark time.
Right. For sure, yeah. That's one of the things we talk about with the locals, with the hurricanes. Like, that's a big thing there. But I think that's just Maria was just something no one expected. So I wanted to use that as a deterrent not to move there
Right. I
either.
mean, so for some, and just for perspective, speaking to what you're saying of like not using that as a deterrent, there hadn't been a strong storm for 18 years or so before that. So it's not like we're not, unfortunately, I don't want to shout Haiti out badly, but it's not like we're Haiti or Miami where you get hit with a bad hurricane, or Houston every year. It's like this was few and far between. And what, it's been 3 years now, and the worst we've had is like a tropical storm that knocked out the power for like 10 minutes. So we've definitely improved in that sense. So I wouldn't use that as a deterrent to not come. Because at the same time, the storms are at a risk for living in the environment that you enjoy living in. So just you got to take what comes with it, and it's not really coming that often. So it's safe. I wouldn't worry. And honestly, I'll give you a true attest. The power situation has gotten better. We used to get out of power at least once a month or so. I haven't had my power go off since I can remember. So that is a big shout out. Especially my first year here, it was like every month the power might go out for 10, 20 minutes. And now we're not really experiencing that anymore. So infrastructure is stepping up.
Yeah, that's real.
Stepping up.
Yeah, that's real. So we kind of, through all the basics and some of the history, your living situation on the island. How's your situation been with the police? We're both, lived in the DMV. You're from the DMV. We have definitely a strange, to say the least, situation or relationship with the police department. How is it over in PR for you?
I personally feel as comfortable, more comfortable than I've ever felt with the police here. I guess the easiest way to put it, I feel like they maintain order. They're not policing. They're not out looking for things. They're trying to make situations bigger than they need to be. They are just maintaining order, not overstepping boundaries. There's a mutual respect amongst everyone with the police. Everyone of all colors feels the same way. And that just kind of ties back into the culture of Puerto Rico. Everyone is mixed up. Everyone's families are so mixed up here. Like you can go to a family reunion, you're gonna see black, white, super black, light skin, typical Latino color that you're gonna expect. So with that aspect that my family looks like everything, people don't have that same racial animosity that we have sometimes in the States, because how am I gonna hate on this white person in my family, and it's my family. Like, I can't be mad. And just as easy as that person can be whatever color they may be. So everyone here kind of just looks at each other as Puerto Rican, and I think that cuts off on a lot of underlying tensions that minorities may have towards the police in the States. Like if they're behind me, I don't have any concerns. If they're saying something to me like out the window or something, I don't feel like they're trying to get my attention and pull me over and then do something. It's like, hey, your lights, turn them on. And it's just boom, smooth. Thanks, man. It's no suspense, it's no tension. It's just as it should be. Yeah. It's peace, it's serene. Let's go with that. It's just a tranquil experience.
That's real, man. So yeah, that's kind of how I felt too when I was over there. I had a cool experience with the police. It wasn't too many altercations anyway. I mean, interactions, I should say. For some reason, I just never felt nervous. So it's I can attest to that. So being black, both of us are black. I'm regular black too a little bit, and
you have regular?
Yeah, I'm half regular, man. Full black, but half regular. What do you recommend for like someone like us, man, moving to the islands? How should they find community? Is there Black American expat community there?
That is actually a very good question. It's not a large Black expat community here, but we do exist. But if we get close enough in a circle and we talk, we normally are gonna make good friends. It is not so. kind of tying back to that last point where kind of everyone sees themselves as Puerto Rican, there's not a lot of hard line. I have not seen a lot of segregated communities in terms of, oh, there's a bunch of expats over there, there's a bunch of black expats that always do their thing. So it is pretty mixed, but I think it is very easy to meet expats maybe in general and establish relationships. And I think we are liked in terms of locals. Locals want to talk to black people. They like hip hop, they like rap, they like basketball. So, I think we also may be looked at a little differently by the locals than if you were, white, where they may kind of see you as this typical tourist, obnoxious or whatever. Not to say they don't see some of us black people as obnoxious, because sometimes we are, but we're also looked at it as a slightly different lens. And I think that is a benefit, to be looked at in kind of a little more admired and praised way for black people as a change. And I think we see that when a lot of black people do go to the Caribbean, or when they go to Latin America, they kind of feel a little bit more at home, a little bit more warmer, a little less tension. Just in my experience, that's one of the things I love about going to the islands and to Latin America. You kind of feel less stigmatized.